Good morning, everyone. Welcome. We are today back to the study of the book Between Heaven and Earth. And as usual, let me give you a review of what we studied last month, because this book, if you miss one class, you can get lost in the story. So last month we studied chapter 25, when Amaro is married to Zulmira, first husband of Odila, mother of Evelina, who sent the diverted prayer that started the whole book. So Amaro, touched by Odila's tender influence, lovingly seeks Zulmira, trying to infuse her with new energy and hope. Odila then spiritually reunites with Evelina, who tells her about the prayers she had been sending for her. And then Odila gives the maternal recommendations about prayer combined with action for good. After awakening, Evelina, perfectly recalling the dream with her mother, is induced by her mother's influence to seek out her father and stepmother, enveloping them with her radiant optimism. Zulmira, gathering from the narrative the new dispositions of her former rival and influenced by the joy of Amaro and Evelina, praises Odila's spiritual protection in restoring domestic peace. And then Odila, witnessing the unexpected testimony of gratitude, feels deeply moved, crying with recognition and joy. Then on chapter 26, we learn that Evelina's discarnated mother, Odila, will now perform the function of the spiritual protector of her former earthly home. And then Odila visits her son, Julio, for the first time, and that's important for what we are going to study today. And concerned with the boy's health and wanting to take care of him, she is hosted by Blandina and Mariana until she can permanently stay at the house, Casa da Bênção, home of blessings. And we understand the reasons behind Minister Clarencio's reserved attitude in informing Odila about the cause of Julio's illnesses and the necessary measures required in the case. Again, for this study of today, it's important for us to remember Julio, who in a previous incarnation as Davis, tried to commit suicide drinking poison. Failing to do it, he commits suicide by drowning himself. He's born as a son of Amaro and Odila. Odila discarnates. Zulmira kind of jealous of him, and through her carelessness, she allows Julio to drown in the sea, which is the consequence of his first suicide attempt, drowning himself. And then we have here Evelina, we have Amaro, Zulmira, and Odila. Okay, that's the story for today. So now let me share the book so we can start reading. Okay, Zoraida.
Yes. Okay. Chapter 27, preparing for the return. 4 weeks flew quickly by when Odila came looking for us in the Temple of Assistance for a private meeting. Clarencio, Hilario, and I were now ready, really surprised to see her. She was somewhat downcast and worried. With respectful tact, she told us about something that had been troubling her. Julio still had the same wound on his glottis. She was rooming with him in suitable accommodations at the School for Mothers, and she was giving the boy all the care he needed to rebuild his energies. Nonetheless, he was still struggling. Never medical measures nor magnetic passes had been effective. She would do anything to see him strong and happy again. She was hoping for some miracle that could ease her anxiety, but she had gone with Blandina to visit other departments of assistance for suffering children and had seen many who had problems that were perhaps even worse than her beloved Julio's. She had been terrified by what she saw. She had never even imagined that there could be such infirmities after death. She had asked several friends to intervene in the matter on her behalf, and every one of them had told her that the moral debts consciously acquired while incarnate could only be paid off while incarnate. That was why reincarnation was Julio's only option. The physical body would serve to dampen his soul's infirmity, healing it little by little. What had the boy done in the past life to warrant such a punishment? The poor woman wiped her tears. Clarenzo, who had profound knowledge of human suffering, spoke to her like a priest. Odila, the past is not the proper remedy for the present. Let's concern ourselves with the situation as it stands right now. Julio's in dire need, and providing him with relief is our immediate concern. The resigned mother agreed with a nod. I too believe, he continued, unperturbed, that his reincarnation is an urgent matter if we want to see him on the road to recovery. Sister Clara suggested that I ask for your assistance. Please help me, selfless friend. We are all brothers and sisters, added Clarenzo benevolently, and we must all lend one another our mutual support. Julio is not an ordinary person, and that is why it wouldn't be right for him to be reborn haphazardly like an uncultivated plant that germinates for no purpose in the forest of the inferior life. So let's take a look at the picture of your closest relationships.
Okay. So when they left Odila there taking care of Julio, Clarencio told Hilario and Andre Luiz that he didn't want to talk a lot to Odila about the past of the boy, his previous incarnation, because he wanted Odila to learn by herself about the suffering of Julio and learn through the companions she had there and the lessons she would receive there, the necessity of reincarnation. Because if Clarencio believes that if he had told her that the boy needed reincarnation immediately, she would maybe react, trying to not allow him to reincarnate, because she was just reunited with him and wanted to stay close to him and help him in his recovery. But she needed to learn for herself that reincarnation was the best path for little Julio. So they left her there, and after a few weeks, she comes back looking for Clarencio and showing her worries about him, about little Julio, because he still has the same wound in his glottis. She was there staying with him in the part of the spiritual colony for children, the school for mothers, where mothers had an opportunity to stay with their sons. That's all in the spiritual world. And she was taking care of him, but nothing seems to be working. And she tells Clarencio that she visited other departments of assistance there and could find children that with problems that sometimes even worse of her son. And she was terrified because she couldn't really understand that we could carry such infirmities after death. On her case, she discarnated. She got sick. We didn't learn how she discarnated, but of course young, because her son was young and Evelina was 15 when she was praying in the beginning of the book. So Odila discarnated young, but we don't know the reason. But for sure, it was not self-inflicted. Was some disease or something similar to that. So she didn't carry any consequences of her physical issues to the spiritual body. And we know that we carry consequences of the damage we do to our physical body back to the spiritual world, and sometimes it takes a while for us to recover. And in the case of children, of course, there's a whole different story with children, and we'll see in the next few chapters reincarnation. We'll talk about reincarnation for children, and we'll talk about children in the spiritual world. The necessity of them staying children and growing at the natural pace that they would grow here in the physical world. But as I mentioned when we were discussing the characters of this book, Julio in a previous incarnation tried to commit suicide, failed, and then committed suicide twice, right? So there are consequences for that. And sometimes, as Clarencio explains here, and Odila learns, moral debts consciously acquire while incarnated. That's very important, consciously. Again, we learn and evolve by making mistakes and not repeating our mistakes. So if we make mistakes for our lack of knowledge and do not repeat, we don't carry any consequences. If we make mistakes and consciously repeat, insist on those mistakes, we carry those back to the spiritual world, and it makes it more difficult for us to heal in the spiritual world. Sometimes the only solution is a new reincarnation to have the physical body to help us heal our wounds. So she learned that reincarnation was the best option for Julio. Actually, she says reincarnation was the only option, because then the physical body would dampen the infirmity of the soul. And that's very important. The infirmity here is of the spirit. It's not the spiritual body. It's in the mind of the spirit. But of course, she doesn't understand. She asks what he has done in the past to deserve such a punishment. She's only seeing his suffering at present. And then Clarencio immediately tells her, let's not concern ourselves about the past, because the past is not going to give a remedy to the present. Let's focus on where we are now and see what's the best solution for the situation. And immediately, of course, he says, I believe that reincarnation is an urgent matter if we want to see him on the road of recovery. But he adds that for the reincarnation, we are all brothers and sisters, and we all must lend one another mutual support. And then he says, of course, giving her the importance of her son for her to be encouraged and comforted, that Julio is not an ordinary person and wouldn't be right for him to be reborn haphazardly, like an uncultivated plant, meaning some plan is needed for his reincarnation. So then he says, let's take a look at your closest relationship. So he's trying to direct her to find someone close to her that loves her and she loves, to bring the opportunity of a new reincarnation for Julio. We, of course, know where he's going with this, but he doesn't want to tell her. He wants her to reach the conclusion where Julio needs to be born. Okay? Elmo, anything to add here?
No, I think so far there's nothing to compliment.
Okay, any questions? Comments? Okay, so let's continue.
Okay. After a brief pause, he continued. Don't you have a large number of close friendships down on the earth? In matters of assistance, we mustn't lose sight of our sentiments. In order to enter both the kingdom of the spirit and the kingdom of the flesh under the best conditions possible, we cannot do without the cooperation of sincere friends who know and love us. Ah, yes, I understand, exclaimed Odelia, somewhat disappointed. Problem is, I was always so concerned about our home and family that I never really formed such relationships. Amaro, on the other hand, exactly, interrupted the minister to complete her sentence. I'm certain that Amaro will continue to be a wonderful companion for the boy. Still, we cannot do without Sumila's help. We need her to act as mother. That being the case, you absolutely have to be more devoted, friendlier toward her. One effort requires another. Without the oil of cooperation, the machinery of life won't work. Odelia's eyes sparkled with hope. I'll do all I can to help her, thereby helping myself. She replied earnestly, in this imperative of fraternity, I can see the sweet will of the Lord leading me to work willingly with Zumila. I can truly see how sublime the infinite goodness of heaven is, she said with a smile. At first, I fought against Sumila's because she wanted to be loved by my husband. Now I must fight on her behalf for the sake of my son. We make a big mistake when we fight over the love of others, but we correct our mistake when we seek to love. Your conclusion is without a doubt an illuminating lesson, agreed the minister good humanly. We can see the eternal wisdom in everything. Should I follow some specific plan? I think that your loving visits to your old home to solidify its harmony are the basic measure for Julio to find a climate of trust. I believe that he needs special attention, considering his situation as a sickly spirit for whom reincarnation will offer just obstacles. The conversation continued a while longer amid the minister's paternal counsels and the visitor's sincere humility. After Odelia had gone, we bombarded the instructor with the questions vexing our minds. As a law, does reincarnation require the concourse of friendship to fulfill it? Do the disaffections of life have any influence on our future? Wasn't reincarnation an imposition of nature? Clarenzo listened attentively to our questions and answered, the law is always the law. We need only respect it and live according to it. Our attitude, however, can either favor or frustrate its cause, which will either favor or harm ourselves. Rebirth in the flesh acts identically for everyone. However, as we grow in knowledge and love, we are able to take part in all the tasks of moral growth in our recapitulations. Like the plant, the soul can sprout in any tract of soil, but it wouldn't be good to sow choice seeds on uncultivated land, just as what occurs in the lower kingdoms prior to human evolution. Reincarnation per se obeys automatic embryonic principle based on magnetic affinity. However, regarding individuals who are a few steps ahead of the ordinary crowd, it is possible to implement measures that favor the execution of the task to be undertaken. In such cases, the sowing of affection is a decisive factor for obtaining the resources we need. Those who cultivate friendships only within the blood-related family find it hard to carry out certain missions outside the family. The broader our arena of work and love, the broader the collaboration of others on our behalf.
Okay, thanks. So, it's interesting here, as Clarencio explains, that in order to enter both the kingdom of spirit, meaning discarnating, and the kingdom of the flesh, incarnating, under the best conditions possible, we cannot do without the cooperation of sincere friends who know and love us. What we always say, right, that when we go back to the spiritual world, our spiritual friends, families, familiar spirits are there to receive us. Doesn't mean that we are going to be open to see and take advantage of the opportunity. But they will be there, trying to help us, trying to assist us, trying to receive us back. And of course, when we come for a real new reincarnation, if we find ourselves surrounded by loved ones, by those that know us from before and care for us, we have better better conditions and better opportunities to fulfill our task on a new reincarnation. And then Odila says that, remember, he asked, Clarencio talks about finding the closest relationships. And then Odila starts saying that she was so concerned about home and family that she didn't have any other relationships. And then when she says Amaro, on the other hand, Clarencio immediately interrupts her and takes the opportunity because that's what he wants, Amaro. And then he says, exactly. I'm certain that Amaro will continue to be a wonderful company. He doesn't even give a chance for her to complete her sentence. He already throws the idea of Julio being reincarnated with Amaro and Zulmira. But he says, of course, Amaro will be a wonderful companion again, but of course they need Zulmira. She needs to be the mother. And then he tells Odila, you absolutely have to be more devoted, friendlier toward her. Odila already had good intentions towards Zulmira. She changed her disposition, but Clarencio tells her, you need more. You need to be closer to her. One effort requires another, and without the oil of cooperation, the machinery of life won't work. And then Odila says that she's willing to do it. I'm going to work with Zulmira. I want her to succeed. And she concludes that we make a big mistake when we fight over the love of others, but we correct our mistakes when we seek to love. So she's beginning to understand the concept of universal love, right? Not the selfish love that we want everyone for ourselves, and that's a mistake at our level of evolution that we still do, right? That we mix love with ownership. So we want to own our partners, our children, our friends. We don't want to share them. And actually, when the more we spread and allow love for others to be selfless, the better, the more we are going to benefit from it. So Clarencio tells her to start visiting the old home to solidify the harmony and prepare it for Julio's reincarnation. And he says that his situation is special because he's a sick spirit, so it's going to be a more difficult process. And then she leaves, and of course, Andre Luiz and Hilario are full of questions about reincarnation. And the question is, does reincarnation require the concourse of friendship? Or does these affections of life have an influence on our future? And was reincarnation just part of the natural law? And Clarencio explained that the law is always the law. The natural law exists. Reincarnation is a natural law. Our responsibility is to respect it and live according to it. Now, how we look at it cannot either favor or frustrate its course. If we resist, if we work towards it, if we are aware of it, if we are not aware of it. So all of this makes a difference on our reincarnation process. So he says here, rebirth in the flesh acts identically for everyone. Again, the law is the law. Now, as we grow in knowledge and love, we are able to take part in it, in all the paths of moral growth. We study this in the book Missionaries of the Light, chapter 13, the reincarnation of Segismundo. We visited the Center for Reincarnation Studies there in Ossolar, and we learned different reincarnation processes from different people. So all of this shouldn't be new to us if we study the book Missionaries of the Light. But again, for us to be part of our reincarnation process, and that's something that we always try to reinforce this notion, we need to be aware of reincarnation, and we need to accept it as a natural law. There are many that go back to the spiritual world without any knowledge or interest in the process, and they will be brought back to a new reincarnation without being aware that they are fulfilling the natural law. As we evolve and learn intellectually and morally, we are more able to influence and participate in our reincarnation process. Again, Julio is a child, of course, is not going to be aware or participate in the process consciously. He will do it unconsciously. And he continues that saying that wouldn't be good to sow choice seeds, good seeds on an uncultivated land, right? So, and then he explains the process of reincarnation, like it occurs in lower kingdoms. Again, the reincarnation. Again, there is no reincarnation on the lower kingdoms. There is birth in the lower kingdoms. The process obeys automatic embryonic principles based on magnetic affinity, and that's independent of our will. Now, for those individuals that are a little bit above the ordinary crowd, it's possible to implement measures that favor the execution of the test, meaning the reincarnation process can be helped a little bit. And in these cases, the affection is a decisive factor. So those who cultivate friendships only with blood-related family, again, restrict the availability for a future incarnation. It makes it difficult to find more suitable opportunities for future reincarnations. So the broader our arena of work and love, the broader the collaboration of others in our behalf. Again, if we extend our relationships beyond family with friends, with work colleagues, and any way we want, and these become sincere friendships, part of the universal love that we need to learn and we need to practice. You make our future reincarnations easy because we will have the collaboration of more people on our behalf, both incarnated and discarnated spirits. Okay? Elmo, anything here?
No, I have a few questions, but I don't want to put it now because I don't want to anticipate the book. I think Claudian's going to answer it ahead. If he doesn't, I'll ask.
Okay. Ebony?
Oh, okay. So based on what you just discussed, I'm wondering if one's unwillingness to cooperate with the laws of universal love can be seen as one of the reasons why some spirits reincarnate within the same family circle over and over and over again.
It could be a combination of lack of opportunities to reincarnate outside the family, but in most cases is the necessity of, because normally what happens, an average person have loved ones and hated ones within the family, right? You have the ones that you care, you have the ones that you do not go alone. You have a lot of problems, and you end up, you hear of siblings that never talk for the rest of their lives, or siblings that hate each other, spend their whole lives fighting. or parents that don't take good care of children, and children who do not take good care of parents. All these familial problems carry back to the spiritual world and needs to be resolved. And the resolution is a new incarnation within the same group of people, right? Normally, we will come to a family where, again, when we talk normally, we talk the average. We are not talking the exceptions. Average. We'll come to a family where we have loved ones and the ones we need to readjust. And if we ask ourselves, we just have to look around to our families, and we will kind of be able to understand who are the ones that we had a relationship in the past, and who are the ones we have to learn to live, to readjust. And again, we shouldn't be worried if we are failing. We think we are failing in readjusting with some parts of our family. We just need to make an effort. We just need to dedicate ourselves, at least sending prayers. If they don't want to have a relationship with us, there's nothing we can do on our side, but we can at least not reciprocate the inferior feelings or inferior sentiments they send towards us, which we need to try to overcome those inferior feelings. So what Clarencio is telling us here is when we are looking at our reincarnation opportunities, sometimes we can find better opportunities outside of our family, if for special reincarnation purposes, right? And we need to understand that we have hundreds, thousands of reincarnations, so we don't really need to solve our problems in this one. We need to progress. We need to solve some of the issues. We need to improve ourselves. We are not going to solve the problems of the world or even our own problems in one incarnation, but we need to make an effort. And with that, the more we have loved ones around us that can help us, and again, loved ones here is family and beyond family, the better the opportunities we'll have to grow, right? That's what Clarencio is trying to tell. But normally our reincarnations many times come within the same family, growing, learning and growing together. If you remember Nosso Lar, that family that Andre Luiz stayed with, was, I think his name was Lysias, and Laura, I think, was the mother. They were going to reincarnate. The father was already reincarnated. She was coming to reincarnate. They were going to receive daughters again as daughters. So continue on the group progress, because united with those that care for us, we become stronger, and we can help ourselves and help those around us, so we can all evolve together. Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay.
Okay. What about when we carelessly allow antipathy to sprout around us, asks Eladio. All lasting antipathy is a waste of time, and often entails admirable depths. The thorn bush of aversion requires lengthy endeavors of readjustment. In many cases, we spend many years in order to heal the wounds of disaffection, losing contact with wonderful companions in our spiritual journey to the great light. What Clarencio said made us give the matter serious thought, and that is perhaps why we wasted no more question.
Yeah, very quickly here. This part is important because Clarencio reminds us that every antipathy that we carry towards someone, or every difficulties we find with those around us, is a waste of time and creates that will have to be solved in the future. We create obstacles for our progress by having antipathy towards others. Sometimes they require lengthy endeavors of readjustment. So, and we spent many years trying to heal this issue. So we should make an effort not to create new enemies, to feed on old enemies, and to create difficulties with those around us. Divaldo, who is, again, as I mentioned, is turning 97 today, says that he has no enemies himself, but he cannot do anything about those that consider him an enemy. That's not his problem. He needs to make sure he doesn't have any enemies for his own personal growth. Now, we cannot control what others think of us or feel towards us. We can control what we feel towards others and how we behave towards others. So that should be our focus. And again, talking about family members, if we are making the best that we can to repair the damage with members of our family, and on the other side, they are not making any effort, and on the contrary, they are pulling away from us, it's their own issue that they will have to find a solution. We have to do our part, and that's what Clarencio is telling us here. And when we are wasting our time in fights and in this in readjustment with difficult companions, we are losing contact with wonderful companions on our spiritual journey. And you see Odila, how long she spent obsessing Zulmira and missing the opportunity even to be with the son. It took so long for her to be reunited with her son in the spiritual world because she was so obsessed in obsessing Zulmira. Okay, I just wanted to stress here this paragraph. I think is important.
Yeah, that's wrong.
Yes.
Couldn't this paragraph is very powerful paragraph be a answer, not the answer, but a answer to Ebony's question?
Yes, well, I'll let her answer. Yes.
Yes, I think it is. I actually thought that's what you were going to say when you started commenting on it.
But again, a answer, okay, not the answer.
An answer,
Yeah.
Thanks. Okay.
We'll continue then.
Yes.
Later on, we found out that Evelina's mother had begun to surround the railroad worker and his sick wife with love, which after much effort finally reestablished the latter's organic health. As she made preparations for her son's return, Odelia dedicated herself wholeheartedly to the job of restoring the couple's conjugal harmony and their contentment with life. Consequently, after a few weeks had passed, we received an invitation from Sister Clara to visit La de Becao. The next evening, Odelia would take Omaro's second wife to meet Julio as the last preliminary step of the reincarnational process. At the appointed time, we were ready. Blandina, Mariana, Clarencio, Hilario, and I talked excitingly in a room set aside for us at the School for Mothers, where we surrounded the white crib in which Julio was mourning from time to time. With Sister Clara's help, Odelia had gone down to her former home in order to bring Zulmira back to us. After some time of expectancy, the three arrived, surrounded by a luminous wave of peace. Supported by her two guardians, the once obsessed Zulmira seemed happy in spite of the look of fear and insecurity in her eyes. She responded to our greetings with the wonder that most incarnates show when they visit the higher rims of the spirit world before they die. Soon thereafter, still supported by her two companions, she approached Julio. On recognizing him, she asked in amazement, "My God, is this really Julio?" "Yes, it really is," confirmed Odelia. "We beg you to help him. He needs to reincarnate, Zulmira. Will you help him by becoming his mother?" Zulmira broke into tears of joy. She bent over the boy, caressing him with untranslatable tenderness, and said in a voice nearly suffocated with emotion, "I'm ready. I owe Julio the care I denied him before. I praised God for this gift. I feel that I will never again be assailed by regret for not having done for him what I should have. He should be my son, yes. I shall hold him ever so close. Please help me, O Lord." She hugged the child, and from then on she seemed incapable of any connection with us. Perhaps suddenly reconnected to the troubling memories of the mental fixation she had gone through, she seemed deaf and blind under the influence of unexpected introversion. At Clara's urging, the minister approached Zulmira and assisted her, recommending, "It would be best to take our sister back home now. The continued shock of being here could cause us serious harm. Tomorrow we will take the boy to the domestic sanctuary from whence he came, finally entrusting him to the task of starting out once again." So the suggestion was obeyed, and as Zulmira returned to her family temple, we began waiting eagerly for the following day.
Okay, so how much here is just the taking Zulmira back to Zulmira to meet Julio in the spiritual world during her sleep. So the Evelina's mother, Odila, continued to work, surround Amaro and Zulmira with love, and after much effort, finally she recovered her organic health. Remember, she was not well when due to the obsession and her own guilty feelings, right? And so after a few weeks, they go they are invited by Sister Clara to visit Larda Benson, the Home of Blessings. And because the next evening, Odila would take Zulmira's there to meet Julio. And they were all there, Blandina, Mariana, who are taking care of Julio, Clarencio, Hilario, and Andre Luiz, waiting. And with Sister Clara's help, Odila had gone to bring Zulmira. So Zulmira is sleeping during her sleep, she's taken to the spiritual world to visit Julio, right? Supported by Odila and Sister Clara. So she arrives there happy, but with a look of fear and insecurity. When we dream and we have these experiences in the spiritual world, we are not completely comfortable, especially if we don't fully understand the whole notion of the spiritual world and our experiences there. So Andre Luiz says that she responded to their greetings with the wonder that most incarnates show when they visit the higher realms of the spirit world when they're still incarnated. But when she sees Julio, she says, "Oh dear, is this really Julio?" And then Odila asks her if she can become his mother, and she's very happy. She breaks in tears of joy, and she says that she owes Julio the care. Again, the guilty conscience that she's been carrying since the moment that Julio drowned, and she was careless in taking care of him. She allows him to go play close to in the ocean and ended up drowning himself. So she is very happy. She says that you'll be my son, and it's very interesting what happens after. When she embraces the child, she loses the ability to interact with the others that are there in the spiritual world, because Andre Luiz says that perhaps with the troubling memories, she becomes deaf and blind when she connects to embraces Julio. And Clarencio approaches her and says it's better if we take her back, because if she continues here, she can increase the shock and they can cause more damage than good. Tomorrow we'll take the boy back to his original home. and start the process of reincarnation. Okay, so that's the end of the chapter. Anything here? Elmo, any additional comments, or your questions will be answered next chapter? Okay, that's 28 then.
Okay. The return. Preoccupied with Julio's case, the next day we asked Lorenzo about the plans for the boy's reincarnation. He informed us concisely. The problem is very serious, yet quite simple. It will entail only a brief but necessary trial. Julio will have the troubling desire to remain on the earth for a long term with the loan of a physical body. However, since he has committed suicide twice, he will have to experience an early death twice in order to more securely value the blessing of earthly life. After spending several years in the lower rims of our plane, during which he freely yielded to rebelliousness and idleness, he paid for having drowned himself. This time he will have to deal with the results of having poisoned himself. This is all very regrettable, but with a significant facial expression, he finished. Who can learn without the help that suffering provides? But I wonder about his parents. Suffering, considered Hilario hesitantly. My friends, justice is inalienable. We cannot avoid it. Due to Amaro's and Zumila's emotional imbalance in the past, Julio slid down the dark slope of moral depth. Now he will have to recover with their assistance. Yesterday, by neglecting him, the couple induced him to fail. Today, by loving him, they will ensure his success.
Okay, so here, when we read about the reincarnation of Julio, Clarencio first tells us that he will entail only a brief but necessary trial on this new reincarnation. Since he has committed suicide twice, he will have to experience an early death twice. Again, this is specific for his case. Let's not generalize that, it's an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. It's not. Each person is different. In Julio's case, he has to experience an early death twice in order to more securely value the blessing of earthly life. So he spent many years in the lower regions, and he allowed himself to fall into rebelliousness and idleness that he paid for having drowned himself. And then he drowned as a young kid, and this time he'll have to deal with the results of poisoning himself, meaning he have to face the consequences of the first suicide attempt that he made, damaging his physical body. And Clarencio says, this is all very regrettable, but it's the natural law. It's the law of cause and consequence. We have to face the consequences of our action. We can evolve again through love or through pain. We have to learn to evolve through love. If Julio didn't rebel himself, as they say here, in the spiritual realm, futilely yielded to rebelliousness and idleness, if he had worked on recovering himself in the spiritual world, maybe he wouldn't have to go through these experiences in the physical life. So we're talking here about the specific case of Julio. And then Hilario asks, well, but what about the parents? They're going to suffer also. And Clarencio explains, due to their emotional imbalance in the past, again, previous incarnation of both, they are all united in these problems that Julio is facing down. So now he will have to recover with their assistance. They neglected him in the past, both as Umira in the present, his last incarnation, allowing to drown. Amaro, previously, when he was living with a friend with Julio in the previous incarnation, so the couple allow him to fail, and by loving him, they will ensure that he succeeds in his next incarnation. It's a little bit complex, the whole process, but we have to remember we're talking about this precise reincarnation and this specific case. Let's try to learn from the specific cases and take the general lessons, but not try to think that everything has to be the same way in each reincarnation process. No reincarnation process and no discarnation process is the same. The general law is the same. The particularities of each case is of each case. Okay. Anything here? Questions, comments? Elmo, anything here or no?
I've got a question.
No.
Sure, Sally.
What I'd like to know is that purely attraction that, for instance, with this combination of the two having neglected and the other one needing to appreciate life, it's now balancing. Is that balance actually worked out by spirits, as this happens to be, it looks like spirits are working out this, this arrangement without the involvement of the parties concerned? I thought that the parties themselves were instrumental in making these choices at a spiritual level when for their next reincarnation, but it seems as though they're not part of the process at all. It's being decided by external spirits.
Yeah, well, we have to go by parts here, right, Sally? Julio is a child, so he cannot be involved. He has to follow the natural law. He needs a new reincarnation. Amaro and Zulmira, of course, they are both incarnated. She needs to get pregnant. They need to go through the proceeds for her to get pregnant. So, of course, our free will can interfere. The spiritual benefactors, they plan and they try to direct us towards our needs, but our free will prevails over everything. So he's describing here the whole preparation of the spiritual world, but it all depends on us incarnates through our free will, right? Okay. So the thing here,
he's a child. It's
sorry?
only because he's a child that he's not involved in that process.
Yes, but also you can have people that are not children that do not participate into their reincarnation process, because let's say you don't believe in reincarnation. You think it doesn't make any sense. You go back to the spiritual world, you continue not believing, right? Why would it change, right? If you don't want to learn, if you don't want to take your time in the spiritual world to learn and to progress, you may continue there, waiting for heaven, hell, or purgatory, or without understanding what's happening here, why I'm here, or not really focusing on that, focusing on other things in the spiritual world. So the reincarnation is a natural law, but because you don't believe in it, you are going to reincarnate without participating on it, right?
Thank you.
Spirits that are stuck in the lower zones, or spirits that are immersed in their own guilt, in their own issues, that are not really focusing on their thoughts on their progress, they are forced, right? They are brought to a new reincarnation process without being aware of the reincarnation process. Is the necessity, is the natural law. Okay?
Yeah.
Anyone else?
Yeah. So first, the law. Reincarnation is a law, was stated here by Clarence and Andre Luiz. Second, necessity. And down this priority cascade, things will be added in accordance to merit and possibility of us of participating in those plans, right? Zulmira was taken there and agreed to be a mother. She had a participation, right? Julio, although he identified himself now as a child, and his kind of playing a role as a child is an old spirit also with great debts with the natural law also that requires reincarnation for readjustment. So you go back to the first priority, the law first, necessity second, and then they will try to make things that provides that spirit and everyone else involved the greatest opportunity of growth during that reincarnation, meaning the spirit itself will reincarnate, then the parents, the grandparents, and everybody around it will benefit from that reincarnation.
Thanks. Okay, Soraya.
Yes. The conversation flattered, perhaps because the subject matter compelled us to think long and hard about it. Reflecting on the absolute harmony of the law, Hilario and I had no more questions. We waited for nightfall, when we would form a group of friends that would restore the ailing child to his former home. It was almost dawn when we arrived at the railroader's residence. It was enveloped in darkness. Adelia carried the restless mourning child in her arms, while the minister, Sister Clara, Blandina, Mariana, Hilario, and I silently surrounded them. We entered the humble room. As if he had been given an invisible sedative, the boy quieted down. Lorenzo explained, the child is experiencing great relief due to his contact with the fluids of his home. The rebalancing of his soul in such familiar surroundings will be a solid foundation for the success of his reincarnation. He did not continue, however. Sister Clara motioned to him with a wave, and he went into the couple's bedroom alone, undoubtedly to check on whether the time was right to entrust Julio to his future mother. A few minutes later, he invited us to enter. We witnessed the unfolding of a moving scene. Zumila, in her spirit body, extended her kindly hands to us. She was beautiful, radiant with joy. As she received Julio and held him tight, she looked like a sublimated Madonna, haloed by victorious motherhood. Adelia was weeping. Lorenzo lifted his eyes on high and prayed in a moving voice. Bless us, O Lord, souls entwined in the hope of your infinite love, in the joy that comes from obedience to your will. We are here, accompanying a friend who has returned for recapitulation. Give him strength to submit in resignation to the cross that will be his salvation. O Father, uphold us as we travel the great redemptive road on which problems and pain must act as our guides. Strengthen our courage and serenity, and moderate our hearts so that we may serve you in any circumstance. Most of all, O Lord, we ask you to help our sister who has invested sacred feminine aspirations in the maternal apostolate. Sanctify her longings and strengthen her energies so that she may honor herself with you in the divine endeavor of creation. Sanctuated with parental love that reaches out spirit down to the secret fount of tears, the minister's prayer left us enwrapped. Zumila, however, touched us even more deeply. Attracted by the magnetic power of the prayer, she approached Lorenzo with the boy and knelt down. Such humble naivete reminded me of the gospel narrative about the widow of Nain with her dead son at Christ's feet, and I could not hold back the tears that flowed from my heart. Equally touched by the spontaneous gesture of trust and faith, the minister transfigured and caressed her head. Something sublime must have happened within the soul of that selfless missionary, of whom I had become so fond. A starry outpouring descended from the higher rims, inflaming his brow, and beams of sapphire blue light shot out from the hand with which he caressed the kneeling sister. We were enveloped by a few marvelous moments of expectation. Then Lorenzo helped Zumila up and led her to the bed with the child. From then on, Zumila seemed fully concentrated on the boy, who entwined himself with her like a mollusk, accommodating himself to its shell. Julio was finally able to sleep in peace. Held on the maternal lap, he seemed to immerse himself into it. On other occasions, I had witnessed the preparatorial steps of reincarnation, which required the active concourse of technicians specializing in the process. along with the benefactors from the higher life. But this time, the phenomenon was very simple, as it just supposed itself on the delicate tissues of the mother's perispirit. The boy's own subtle body gradually shrank before our eyes. Sister Clara and her companions kissed the future mother, who was trying to retake her dense body with the comforted and waiting child. We left, overcome with the pure joy born from a duty well fulfilled. Odelia assumed responsibility for helping Zumila, and Clarenzo promised to keep a close eye on the natural processes of the inseparate pregnancy.
Okay, so so here, when they go towards Zumira and Amaru's house, all of them, Blandina, Mariana, that have been taking care of Julio, Hilario Andre Luiz, and of course, Sister Clara and Clarencio. And Clarencio explains that Julio already feels relief with the fluids of his home. Again, we feel comfortable when we go to places we know. Sometimes we go back to places we lived before, or we had good experiences in our childhood or in our youth, and we feel these good energies. We feel happy. It helps us, the energies of the places that in the past we felt good. So Julio is going back to his original home where he had his last incarnation, short, but with the care of his father, he finds relief getting there. And Clarencio explains the rebalancing of his soul in familiar surroundings will be a solid foundation for the success of his reincarnation. So, of course, the couple has to do the deed for her to get pregnant. So that's why they are staying outside the couple's bedroom. They allow them their privacy, and then after it is done, they go into the room, and Zumira is already sleeping. She receives them in spirit, beautiful, radiant with joy, and receives Julio and embraces him. And then Andre Luiz describes, in a very poetic way, how she looks like a sublimated Madonna. And then Clarencio says a very beautiful prayer, asking for the protection of the family, of the reincarnating child, and the mother, the strength for the mother. And then Zumira approaches Clarencio and knelt down before him, and Andre Luiz talks about the widow of Naim and her dead son. Is one of the passages where Christ, according to the church, resuscitates a dead person. According to Spiritism, the dead son was not really dead. He was in a state of something, maybe catatonic state, maybe another medical state that looks like being dead. And again, at that time, at the time of Jesus, they had no way of recognizing him. But Jesus, as a perfect spirit, knew that the boy was not dead, so he raises the son of the widow of Naim from death. So by then, Zumira concentrates with the boy. The boy starts to become entwined with her, and the description Andre Luiz gives here is a mollusk accommodating itself to its shell. So it's like a mollusk going back to its shell, but and then he sleeps in peace in his maternal lap. And then he describes Andre Luiz. First, he talks about other reincarnation processes that he saw, that active concourse of technicians along with benefactors. But this case, and we'll see very shortly, is not a special case in terms of need of technicians. It was a very simple phenomena, and they see the boy's own subtle body gradually shrank before our eyes. What is this happening? The perispirit losing its form of a boy and losing completely and going to become just a small seed inside the future mother wombs. So again, as Spiritism explains to us, the reincarnation process starts at the moment of conception, and that's what is described very clear here. And then they are all full of joy. Odila will take responsibility for helping Zumira during the pregnancy, and Clarencio also promised to keep a close eye in the pregnancy. Elmo, anything here on the medical, spiritual aspect of it that I missed?
No, I don't think so. Fertilization, conception, when the spermatozoid enters that ovum, it may take 14 hours to a week after sex, basically, right? So it doesn't mean that this happened right then and there. The process of reduction, that they call reduction or shrinking of the perispirit, is not automatic like yours. It is also a process as well. The spirit, in this case of Julio, probably he will be in a state of hibernation, so to say, immediately, because he's so needy and so sickly that he will not be very active. But all the spirits otherwise who are spiritually healthy, so to say, and also going to process the reincarnation, may stay with his identity throughout for some time during that process, and may even be able to witness that. I don't think that's the case of Elijah, of Julio in this case.
Okay. All right. Okay, let's move on.
When we were alone once again, the questions arose imperiously. The minister, with his usual admirable patience, began to explain. Julio's reincarnation won't require any special attention from our spheres. It is an experimental descent into the arena of dense matter and is of interest only to himself and his family members. However, if his life were meant to influence society as a whole, and if he were the holder of disputable merit with responsibilities toward others, the matter would be quite different. Forces of a higher order would be fatalistically mobilized to interfere with his chromosomes to ensure that the embryo would be suitable for its mission. What if the reincarnating spirit were a man of broad intellectual powers, asked Hilario? We would have to pay special attention to the brain structure so that he would be ensured of having an instrument capable of enabling him to fulfill his duties involving the materialization of thought. What if he were to be a doctor, a great surgeon, for example? I asked him in turn. He would receive special assistance in the development of his nervous system to ensure that he had complete control over his emotions. Since we had no more specific questions, Clarencio continued. However, embryonic principles function automatically in thousands of rebirths every day. The law of cause and effect does its work without any need for management on our part. In reincarnation, all that is needed is the parent's magnetism, combined with the strong desire of one who is returning to the arena of physical forms. When we return to the physical body, we are invariably animated by a firm purpose, whether it be the desire to relieve the pain that torments us, the longing for spiritual victories that facilitate our entry to the higher life, the vow to recapitulate unfulfilled responsibilities, or the ideal to accomplish great endeavors of love among those with whom we have an affinity. Generally speaking, most souls that reincarnate satisfy the restless desire to start out again. Those who haven't taken seriously enough the endeavor that life has entrusted to them quickly yield to the imperative to repeat the experience, and the re-entry into the physical struggle appears as a redemptive blessing. Millions of destinies are restructured like that, like a huge forest being replanted. A seed grows, stimulated by the magnetism of the soil. A corporeal existence germinates anew, stimulated by the magnetism of the flesh.
Okay, so here we're talking about reincarnations in general, and there is a lot to learn here in this one page that Zoraida just read for us. The first thing is, Julio's reincarnation won't require any special attention from our sphere. Again, we are following his reincarnation because it's the book, it's important for us. But in terms of the general reincarnation process of 170,000 children that are born each day, he doesn't deserve any special attention. He's just coming to the matter. His reincarnation interests only to himself and his family members. It has no effect in the whole world, in the society. So what Clarencio means here is, if he was to influence society, if he was supposed to become someone important, if he was supposed to have specific characteristics that would facilitate his work towards helping society in any role, the reincarnation will be, the forces of the higher world will be mobilized to interfere. And then he gives the examples here when Hilario asks about someone with intellectual powers, that the spirits will pay special attention to the brain structure. So he would have an instrument capable of enabling him to involving duties involving the materialization of the thought. If he was to be a great surgeon, he would require special assistance in the development of his nervous system to ensure he had complete control over his emotions. One thing is important here, that going back to Sally's question, free will, right? All the preparation would be done for this person to become a great surgeon. But then this person, when he turns, when he's young, he decides that he wants to be a musician. And he turns out to be an average musician, never succeeding in anything, living his life by, surviving as a musician, a struggling musician, and missing the opportunity of being a great surgeon that he was prepared to. And then, of course, as we go back to the spiritual world and recognize our wasted opportunities, we ask for new opportunities. So free will plays a very important role here. He'll be born with the desire and interest of being a surgeon, but no guarantees that he'll become a great surgeon. It just depends on our free will. So every time that someone reincarnates with a specific purpose to help humanity evolve, the reincarnation process will be taken care with more detail by the superior spirits. And again, I threw a number here. We have 170,000 children born every day throughout the world, and of these 170,000, how many are going to be relevant to humanity's evolvement, more important to their own evolvement, right? At this level of our evolution, very few. And those are the ones that are taken care, especially through the reincarnation process. So Clarencio continues, the embryonic principles function automatically in thousands of rebirths every day. The law of cause and effect does its work without interference from the spiritual world. Like as we normally give the example as, I always forget the name of that apparel that works automatically without our interference. So he says that reincarnation, all is needed is the parent's magnetism combined with the strong desire of the one who is returning to the arena. Now here, it's something important, because I just mentioned that a lot of people are not interested or not do care, or not understand, or not accept the reincarnation. So where is the strong desire? Is unconscious. Is the desire to free themselves of the difficult situations they face. So unconscious, they desire a new reincarnation without being aware that that's what they are desiring. So we come here to relieve out the pain that torments us. We come here for looking for spiritual victories that will facilitate our spiritual evolvement, to take care of unfulfilled responsibilities, to achieve endeavors of love, different opportunities. Most souls reincarnate, satisfy the restless desire to start out again, and these again can be unconscious. Those who haven't taken seriously enough the endeavor of life want to repeat the experience, and millions of destinies are restructured like that, like a huge forest being replanted. And that's how he explains the number of reincarnations that happens every day without the direct participation of the spiritual world. Always there is the indirect participation. There is always the guardian angel that takes care of each one, that is their responsibility on the reincarnation process. Yes, Ebony.
I'm wondering if we have a possible answer or a possible cause for couples who suffer from infertility that doesn't seem to have any basis in medicine at all. In the last highlighted part, it says in reincarnation, all that is needed is the parent's magnetism combined with the strong desire of the one who is returning to the arena of physical form. So is it possible that in cases that I described, is it possible that perhaps both parents are not, they do not have any kind of magnetic affinity, or it's as a result of the reincarnating spirit, the spirit that's supposed to come, it doesn't have that desire to want to reincarnate? And that could be possible one of the reasons why they're having difficulty getting pregnant.
Yeah, there are hundreds of different answers, right? Because you can start with parents that did a lot of abortions in previous lives, right? So they have to go through the experience of trying to conceive and not being able to conceive, to face the consequence of their own carelessness for children in previous existences. That is the simplest answer. But you can go from there to other things, like maybe the couple, what they need is to find the strength and the courage to adopt, to receive children that do not belong to them, because they need to learn to love outside blood relations. They may need to go through a life without having any children, because their needs are to be somewhere else. And the not having children is an opportunity of learning and of understanding. So of learning and evolving. So here, what Clarencio is saying is that the majority of cases, just the parent and the child desire to reincarnate, even unconscious, and the parents desire to have a children, or the combining their magnetism. We know a very large number of pregnancies that are happened by unwanted pregnancies, right? That creates a lot of problems also. So what he's talking about here is the regular couples, regular life. And then you go to the thousands of exceptions, and each one has a particular case, right? And we cannot really give answers to each case. Each case is a case. It may be the responsibility of the mother, it may be the responsibility of the father, it may be the responsibility of both. The child that needs to come may need to come in a different, for a different couple to go through different struggles until it finds the parents that it needs, you know, spend some time as a child in an orphanage. Again, can be several different cases, but what we have to say that it is always, there is always a reason. It's never without any reason. So if the couple is facing difficulties, there is a reason for that. But it's for the couple to start guessing the reasons is not the best option. The best option is to try to find what's the best path for them to follow. Sometimes the couple spends thousands of dollars in trying to conceive when they should, you know, choose different paths, choose adoption, choose, I don't know, artificial means of pregnancy to, you know, that will solve their problems without them spending so much. But again, it's our free will, and it's our choices and the consequences of our actions in the past. I don't know, Elma, if you have something to add here.
Not really. Once you rule out all the physical causes of infertility of a couple that we know, both husband and wife, unfortunately, there is still to this day, is a problem of everybody looking only at the female and forgetting that the problem may be on the other side as well. Once you rule out all that, they have to consider other physical causes that our science cannot yet recognize. No, we haven't discovered this or that problem yet. And then, when consider all the possible spiritual necessities of that couple, and that goes everything that Ron have mentioned there. But I think more important is everything must obey natural laws. Everything must obey biochemical laws. If that couple has the physical ability of creating a new flesh body, chances are that they will, because again, it's a law. It's a natural law. If you throw a seed, and Clarence just told that, to throw a seed, there is a good seed in any kind of soil, chances are that it will germinate. That will germinate poorly because the soil is poor, or you grow up to be a wonderful plant because the soil is fertile, the soil is good. But it will obey the laws of science, the laws, biological laws. And all these things about being a doctor, being this, I mean, that's all in accordance with the laws of genetics or hereditary. Nothing can go against those laws. The good spirituality can work with those laws, the same way that we can work with gravity, right? So you can put planes flying up in the air, right? But you cannot defy that law. You cannot go totally against that law. The same thing here, or reincarnation. Everything is in accordance with all the natural laws.
Thanks. Okay, let's see if we can finish this chapter.
Okay. The minister paused briefly, so Hilario asked respectfully, "So, the maternal womb?" Our mentor finished his thought, "is an anemic vessel of strong magnetic power, or a living mold meant for the casting and recasting of forms under the creative breath of divine goodness, which in every part offers us resources for our evolution toward wisdom and love. This vessel attracts the soul that is eager for rebirth and that is attuned to it, reproducing his dense body in time and space, just as the soil engulfs the seed to enable it to germinate in keeping with the principles that enclose it. Motherhood is a sacred spiritual service in which the soul spends centuries perfecting the qualities of the sentiments. The lesson was indeed invaluable, but we had to stop because time was calling us to other duties.
So Hilario talks here, the maternal womb, and Clarencio describes in a very, again, poetic way that is an anemic vessel of strong magnetic power, or a living mold meant for casting and recasting of forms under the creative breath of divine goodness, which in every part offers resources for evolution towards wisdom and love. The two wings of evolution, wisdom and love, moral and intellectual. That's what we learn. Our two necessities in evolving is knowledge and our moral evolution. And motherhood is the perfect sacred spiritual service where we spend centuries perfecting the qualities of sentiments, because again, the most pure love generally is from a mother to a child that she gives birth. So that repeated over and over through centuries and millennia helps us perfect our quality, the qualities of our sentiment. Okay. Any final questions, comments here? Elmo?
No.
Good. All right. So before we close here, just a reminder for those that are here close to us that Saturday we have a special lecture by Dr. Alexander Moreira Almeida on his book that he recently published, Science of Life After Death. It's going to be at SGNY's building, room 4A. You have to register. It's Saturday from 3 to 6 p.m. And if you haven't registered, you can just show up there and register there. It's $20, the registration. Okay, this is Saturday. And it's going to be for those of you that are not here. It's going to be recorded, and then you will be able to watch it later. Okay. Dr. Alexander Moreira Almeida is the top spiritist scientist that we have nowadays in Brazil. The lecture is going to be in English. And his wife, Dr. Angelica Almeida, is going to give a presentation on the project that she's working called Kardec, Recovering the Origins of the Work of Allan Kardec, the Project Allan Kardec, which is a beautiful project also. Next Sunday, second Sunday of the month, we are going to study the Gospel according to Spiritism. Okay? Carol, can you do our final prayer?
Yes, certainly. Thank you very much, John. Thank you, Elmo, and thank you everyone for participating. And Sarita, thank you for reading today. Infinite Creator and Divine Providence, we give thanks for the opportunity to be together again as brothers and sisters for our studies of the book Between Heaven and Earth, chapters 27 and 28. Each must face the mistakes and consequences of past actions. Love and understanding will help us to repair sorrows, guilt, and remorse. We need to settle our accounts with others, our loved ones, and even our enemies, through the process of reincarnation. Facing the tasks of repair can be very difficult, but we can evolve through love or pain. We work on this in both the spiritual and physical worlds. Each case is unique. Spiritual guidance can be available and is offered. Free will, however, can prevail. May we try to expand ourselves to the universal love, to provide greater opportunities during the necessity of reincarnation. This is an adjustment. May we be proactive in our actions of rebalancing. Strengthen our courage and hearts for a solid foundation for re-entering physicality. Again, we give thanks to our spiritual benefactors and the good spirits for guiding and inspiring us today. May we receive the love, light, and peace of Christ within us and for our loved ones, our teachers, our directors, the counselors, the mediums, the workers, and all who are participating. We pray for inner peace and especially now for world peace and for those who are suffering in the physical and spiritual worlds. We pray for our center, SGNY, and all Spiritist centers throughout the world, that they may grow, they may prosper, they may expand and be protected by day and by night. As we close, we humbly ask for safety and protection as we return to our family, friends, loved ones, and co-workers. May we remind ourselves to go forth now as beacons of love, of light, of peace, and of charity, which is love in action. May peace prevail. So be it.